We are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day. How is everybody doing? I didn't schedule this very much in advance. I decided to schedule this just within 30 minutes of beginning. But hello, everybody. Here I am, Apostate Prophet, on the channel Apostate Prophet. What a surprise. And today I have with me a guest, a friend, a fellow YouTuber, a fellow streamer, a fellow curious person who has recently gotten into some trouble, Derek from MythVision. And we want to have a conversation today about Derek's encounters with Islam and Muslims. Derek, how are you doing?
What's up, brother? Thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. I don't know how much trouble I can get in. I'm always in trouble, so...
That's good. That's good. Trouble is good. Yeah. So for all those who don't know you and who don't know who the hell you are, sorry.
Right.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? What are you doing? What kind of YouTube stuff are you doing? How did you get into this, and why?
So simply put, I could go on and on about this. I host a YouTube channel called MythVision Podcast, where mostly what I've done on there is I've taken a critical scalpel, if you will, using a scientific method to the Bible. Mm-hmm. I was a very hardcore fundamentalist Christian for many years, and I started finding problems, right? So what I did is I started to analyze and say the very people I ignored many years ago when I was an apologist, I started to listen to them and say, okay, hold on. Are they onto something with this? And so people like experts in the field that are PhDs, Bart Ehrman, you name it, the list can go on. I said, I'm not listening to these guys. So I started to actually pick and listen to these scholars and analyze the Bible. Well, I realized that religion in general, there are commonalities in many ways, and a lot of them work the same. A lot of Muslims check out my channel, and they love that I'm poking holes at the Bible. Mm-hmm. Like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know? So I was like, okay, hold on. There's so many truth claims starting to pop up because I've been doing ex-Muslim or ex-Jehovah's Witness material, ex-Scientology material, Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons. I mean, you name it. I've been like interviewing a lot of ex-cult members. And I said, you know what? There's some ex-Muslim material, and I've seen harm that has produced from this religion. Let me interview some of these guys, and I'll be interested in analyzing, taking a scalpel to the Quran, to the traditions, looking at the Hadith, checking out what the development of this thing was. And of course, I've caught nothing but a lot of hell from Muslims, especially with the Zara K interview. So I'm just going to block a lot of people on Twitter. I don't have time to sit here and engage. I've got 30 videos to edit, and I need to read books. You know, right here, I'm reading The Origins of the Quran by Ibn Warq. And they'll go, he's a skeptic. He's not trustworthy. But when you read the book, all of it are classical essays by PhD scholars. So they're like, oh, don't listen to Ibn Warq. And it's like, Ibn Warq's only referring to experts in this field. So I'm actually planning on diving to the sources and looking in and going, what do the experts say? Right now, I know this much. You know what I mean?
Did you have any experience with or any knowledge about Islam prior to diving into this, into what you're doing at the moment?
The only information I had prior to this was like secondhand hearsay knowledge. People say, oh, they did this. He married a 9-year-old, all these things, right? So it's all negative content. And that is the criticisms I receive from Muslims is like, hold on, you're coming into this already closed-minded. Even if I didn't hear all that stuff, AP, I would have still approached this going, look, I'm looking for your holes. That sounded wrong. That sounded wrong.
Yeah.
I'm looking for your holes, and I'm not bringing lube. I'm not bringing lube. No, I mean, but seriously, I'm not trying to come into this thing like, hold on, you're going to convince me, and this might be true. That's not me. I'm looking at it skeptically. I'm going to use a scientific method. I want to know, what's one of the first guys here? I want to know what Abu Bakr, you know, what happened in his sources when you start to look at that in the first tradition of the collection of the Quran? You know, Uthman. I want to know about Uthman. I want to get into this. Why are there so many variants and so many different types of Islam? I'm interested in diving into that because I personally found freedom from figuring out.
What I saw was that you were mostly involved in talking about Christianity, which is, of course, something that the atheist community in general, atheists in the West in general, people in general in the West are familiar with.
Right.
And I saw that you talked to people from other backgrounds, from cults and this and that, as you have described. And only recently did you actually start getting into questioning Islam, into learning more about Islam, and your approach wasn't even bad. As far as I see, it was your approach is merely that you try to learn what this religion is about, what those who have left this religion say about it, what those who advocate for this religion say about it. But you have quickly gotten very terrible responses, as far as I see. When I look at your audience, when I look at your at the interview that you had with me, for example, on your channel, I see that there are Muslims in your comment section who say things like, "Whoa, Derek, I thought you were a sincere, serious guy who was after truth, and I followed you so far. But after this, I know that you are just a dishonest liar. Shame on you," and this and that. Is that your impression too? What is what is the first? What is your impression of the initial reactions that you get from Muslims simply by talking about Islam?
Fear, absolute fear. They have seen what I've done biblically, okay? And Christians, I mean, very few have been very over the top, but usually the response is, "You're wrong, you're going to go to hell," or some encouragement of love, like, "Sorry, you're wrong, but you just don't know the Lord," or something like that. And I have to beg to differ. I mean, as serious as I was about this, but that's okay. We have a difference of opinion. Right out the gate, I'm insincere by bringing ex-Muslims on. I'm a liar, you know, this and this and that. Bringing on Zara K, one of the criticisms I got on Twitter was she made a statement that you have to marry your rapist or something like that in some country. There was 20 or 30 guys obsessed with her statement of that, and they made a clip. One of these guys made a clip. He cut my part out to show that in the Hebrew Bible, there's actually a place where, way back in the Bible times, we don't live in those times today. So if a woman is raped by a man, the man not only has, if the father of the daughter wants to, usually the virginity is the most sacred part. So technically they would end up getting paid 30 shekels, which is a lot in antiquity, for the daughter, because the daughter's property of the father in this time, or the father would have to burden this woman with no virginity the rest of his life because no man would want to marry her. Well, that doesn't happen. So I use that analogy. They cut that part out to show that, the Bible has something like this. And then they go, "We don't do that. There's nothing in the Quran." And I'm like, I don't even know. Why aren't you screening your guests? What are you going to do to Zara K? Why aren't you attacking her? And it's like,
so apparently what happens is that she said that there is a practice in Muslim circles or in Muslim tradition that a rape victim has to marry her rapist. And they simply took that out. They cut that out. And as far as I have seen, made it look like it is a deception, an agenda, an Islamophobic thing on your part. Like they immediately began accusing you as somebody who goes with lies, who hosts liars, who is a liar, who is insincere, and all that. And I put this thing on the thumbnail here. How dare you analyze Islam? But that's basically the response that you have received so far, just by having people on who have said something about Islam. Right?
Yeah, I've caught a lot of crap about you. In fact, this morning someone found my Facebook group. Right on it's MythVision, and they posted this video of another guy, I don't even know his name, who takes your video with me and he says, "Look at how dishonest AP is. The fact that I'm even hosting you makes me a collaborator of lies, supposedly." And I watched it this morning. It was about 6 minutes, 6 minutes. And he's like, "Watch, the screen will turn yellow. I'll have it color coded in yellow on what he uses or cuts out. I can't remember, one or the other, and what he keeps." And he's like, "See his confidence level. What a liar." Well, dude, when you go watch it, it is nothing bad. In fact, I've been doing 6 years of YouTube. And when I go, So you cut all that out to make the point, and you make it more like a better video. So if I was saying to you, so AP, what I was going to say, if I cut the out, that makes it AP, what I was going to say, and it makes it much succinct. He acted like you were cutting out information to lie, and like, dude, I'm telling you.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me this is about a? Are you telling me this is about an excerpt from our conversation on your channel, which I took out and edited,
right,
to make it smoother, to make it shorter and smoother, and and they have accused us of editing it to misrepresent it or to lie about it or something. Is that what's going on?
I think so. I think that the only critique I saw in there was that he's assuming you cut out your confidence. So like the were like somehow interpreted by him to mean you weren't confident. If you were he's like he cut out all of this. He acts so confident. No, when you edit a YouTube video, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever choose to start a YouTube channel, you cut out your and so all of that stuff to make the video cleaner, more entertaining, get straight to the point. Like, it's all common sense. Anyone who does videos, especially when you have a channel the size AP has, you want people to be entertained and enjoy the content. So in case you didn't know this, you're going to be seeing more content about Islam from me. I'm going to be doing it critically. That doesn't mean I'm a hater. Should I mention real quick about my helping of a Muslim friend a few months back?
I mean, you can go ahead. You shared that with me kind of privately, but yeah, go ahead.
So a mother reached out to me, and she saw I have another YouTube channel called Derek Lambert. It's a recovery channel. I struggled with the drugs. In October the 25th, will be 6 years off heroin. I was a drug addict. I shot up. I was really, really messed up. And so I've made it. I made it out of there. Well, this mother reached out to me, and she wouldn't stop. She wouldn't like let up. And she pretty much was begging me. And at some point I finally buckled. Long story short, I drove to New York where he's at, picked him up off the streets. The guy's eyes are rolling in the back of his head. I mean, he's dying of fentanyl addiction. And I drove him to my house down in North Carolina. Now, I learned from this experience, no more. You know what I mean? I can't do this because it's too much risk for my own household, my wife and kids. But I brought him into my house. He's a Muslim. We had many talks in this garage where I do my videos right here about Islam and how he's like, no, he starts with it's true. He starts with it's true, and there's no way to convince him. So I can already tell you the picture they're going to paint is you're an Islamophobe. I'm an Islamophobe who actually took a Muslim off the street who struggled with addiction and helped him get clean for 3 weeks till he wouldn't listen to me anymore. And then he ended up leaving because I couldn't allow it in my house. So I want to say that, like, I've grown up with Muslims in my community. It's a tactic that's used right out the gate by people who are afraid of what I might do by exposing more of its human origins. Human origins.
Dan, that's you told me about this in private in the back. It's like I didn't pay attention too much to the actual background of the issue, and that that you have been doing this and helping people recover. But that is significant. It says something about your intentions and your background with this. But yeah. It is indeed. I mean, when we had a conversation on your channel, we had a Muslim caller call in. I think that's the guy. That's the same guy that we are talking about with the whole edited video. Yeah. We had a Muslim call in who wanted to challenge my criticism of the Kaaba's legitimacy within Islamic religion and Abrahamic tradition and all that. And he called in, and halfway through the discussion, I actually asked him, and I asked and said, could anything about Islam be wrong? And the guy outright said, no, to me not. Nothing can be wrong. And when I gave an example to him and said, in this specific instance, in this specific hadith, Muhammad makes a prophecy that turns out to be false. The guy then tries to, without ever even considering the possibility that Muhammad might indeed be wrong, he immediately tries to appeal to the scholars and their explanations as to what this hadith really means and why it is actually not a false prophecy. So, I mean, you see this very big cognitive dissonance that's going on, and with which they also, in a very hostile way, often approach critics and those who question Islam.
I think it's really bad. So far, just getting into this, looking for the PhDs in the field is very difficult. It's not easy because of such ignorance that I think is there, and people saying you can't criticize. Like they're really not open to this. And Christians, for example, practice this sometimes, right? But there are scholars in the field who are experts in this, and no Christians like ready to go after them or constantly harassing them. I'm not going to say no. There are Christians out there that do this, but I see it I've been doing this for a while against Christianity, and nothing on the level that I've already seen here with Islam. So I know that you're dealing with a lot with what you do, and I commend you for having the courage to do that.
Thank you.
Also, I asked this question on Sean McDowell's live the other day. I won one of his books too, or one of the guest books. They sent it to me. So I asked him, I said, is it possible? This was my question to him. Is it possible that Christianity isn't true, or that Jesus didn't rise from the dead? The guest actually said, yes, it's possible. But then he went into, but is it probable? And he wanted to try and make a case to say why he thinks it is. I've not seen the even possible idea enter their head. It's not possible that this could be wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, there is something that I want to say. I recently had a debate with a Christian apologist whose name is Stuart Knechtle, and I had a debate with him on Modern Day Debate, and we were basically debating Christianity versus atheism. Me as a non-Christian who is technically called an atheist, we were talking and debating, and of course, that discussion, that debate went very well, very nicely. And within the whole debate, we even came to a point where we began to talk about what we could accept as evidence. And I briefly joked about, God himself appearing and coming here and saying, I am this and that and all that. And he took that quite well. He smiled, he laughed about it, he added to the joke, moved on from it. The audience was okay with it. Half the audience is Christians, they were fine with it. And I thought to myself, in that moment, I suddenly started diving into my own head and was completely distracted by the fact that I can easily have these discussions with Christians in which we can talk about, hypotheticals where Christianity is false or God doesn't exist. We can, talk about the motives of God. We can we can make mild jokes about, in order to better understand Christianity and in order to better understand Christian beliefs and all that. That's all possible. If I had that same conversation with a Muslim, that stuff would never be possible, because there is a major difference between how Christians think and how Muslims think, between how Christians feel and how Muslims feel. As much as you want to say that Christianity is a religion that is very much fueled with guilt, I am wrong, I have to repent and this and that. In Christianity, you have a different relationship with the God that you believe in, where you have God as the Father. God is you have a connection to God, you pray to him and this and that, and God loves you, you love him back. In Islam, you don't really have that. In Islam, you have this relation of a brutal master and a submissive slave. There, you cannot try to joke or entertain yourself or think about hypotheticals and all that if you talk about Islam or if you talk about Allah. You have to be completely fearful, quiet. You have to be a submissive slave, and Islam literally means submission, and that is what the Islamic sentiment is. So if you approach that religion with an open mind and with some criticism and with critical analysis, you will get responses accordingly that are in accordance, in alignment with that whole sentiment.
You're right. No, you're right. 100%. And here's the thing I do want everyone to know. I mean, not all Muslims are the same. Not all Christians are the same. Not all. But what I've encountered, especially on YouTube so far with my reactions, are people who've come out and look, I'll give you an example. I took a picture of all these books. Well, I got a bunch of books over here on my desk. You can see some of them right here. Okay, a list of them. Some of them definitely aren't academic, meaning they're not by PhDs. Some of them are on the topic of Islam. The immediate response is this mockery about the books I've bought. I made a picture saying, hey, I'm diving into my stuff. They're already like, ha ha ha, stupid. If that's all you got, ha. And it's like, really? Like, I asked him, I was like, I've had a couple conversations in the chats, in these comments. You'll get where I'm going with this. I said, name a single ex-Muslim that you like that accurately represents Islam. They don't. That's why they left. And it's like, I have not had one of them say, okay, this is an ex-Muslim who left the faith that is representing Islam, balanced without being overly critical, or as they like to call Islamophobia, or they have this like, I don't know. It's like you can't criticize it. I criticize Judaism, right? Mm-hmm. One of my very good friends is Rabbi Tovia Singer. He is a Orthodox Jew. I criticize Judaism. He disagrees with me 100% on so many things. But he's my friend. And he writes me, I love you, brother, and we talk all the time in messages. It's like, I know me and him would disagree if we talked about this topic, but I don't really see that happening so far. I am talking to some Muslim scholars that are actively Muslim. But anyway, let's get some of these super chats. AP, I'm sorry. Do we need to address any of these?
Yeah, of course we do. Of course, it's our obligation. I'm just really curious about your whole encounter with Islam and how it differs. What do you think? I think you highlighted this very, very much. But would you say that the reactions that you get from the average Muslim reaction is significantly more hostile than the reactions that you get from any other religious group? Is that the case?
Yes, most of them are so far that I've seen. Some are actually on par with what I've seen when Christian apologists are coming back. But even at the end of the day, the worst I usually get from Christians is, well, you're going to go to hell. You know what I mean? I have had one guy actually threaten me, but never have I experienced that again. And it was a Christian who didn't like that I was challenging William Lane Craig in one of my videos. But the point is, you're absolutely right. I think they want to force that from happening. And look, I'm interested in actually getting to the bottom of this. That's it. I want to get to the bottom of its origins. I think they're afraid. They love my channel for its poking of Christianity or Judaism, whatever, but they don't want me to do it on their book. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And what does it do to you, Derek, when these people attack you simply for asking simple questions about Islam, and when they use extremely abusive language, threatening language, and all that? Is that in alignment with the goal of Islam to spread the religion and to make people like Islam? When these people approach you in such a hostile, aggressive, abusive way, how does that make you feel about Islam and Muslims?
If I'll speak for the Muslim here, to speak to them, okay? If you want people to actually come to your religion that are skeptics, people like me, don't act the same way Christian apologists have. And then, I've been dealing with them for years, right? And I'm not talking about all Christian apologists, but the ones I've been dealing with often come off kind of like, no, you're wrong, this, that. And they're already assuming they're true. Their ideas are true. Encourage criticism. Sean McDowell is like, look, encourage looking into this stuff. Now, of course, he's still going to side with Christianity being true. But you can't talk to a skeptic who's already using scientific methods, who already criticizes his own worldview all the time, to walk into this book and say it was directly orated from Gabriel to Muhammad. This is perfect and it's infallible and it's directly from God and everything's accurate and stuff. And you have so many splits in your religion that I see with my eye. And there's already different variants in history with different people that are talking, just barely scratching the surface, that have followed this religion. And there's civil wars over these things and stuff. I'm like, hold on, man. If it's so from God, why does it look like this already? So I have a problem. And the way you're reacting to me is not making me want to look at this like, oh, I might want to become a Muslim. Maybe this might be true. No, you're making me go, okay, you're making me want to get deeper into this and expose it for its human origins. That's what I want to do. I want to look at it and find out how it started. They make me even more motivated to do that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, if they wanted to change your mind, if they, I mean, seriously, I'm speaking to those who give those terrible responses to people like Derek, or to people who question Islam in general. If you want to clarify things, if you want to counter doubts and counter what you think is Islamophobia, the worst thing that you can possibly do is to, show your hostile side and to attack the critics. The best thing that you could do is to try to sit down with these critics and to talk to them, to try to sit down with these curious people and to talk to them. I'm sure if Muslims on average approached Derek and other people who question Islam in the nicest way possible, then people like Derek wouldn't end up having so many thoughts about Islam that are considered unpleasant to Muslims. I'm sure that if Derek only had wonderful experiences interacting with Muslims while questioning their religion, then he wouldn't have anything bad that he could possibly say about Muslim apologists and about maybe about Islam, but definitely not about Muslim apologists. So, I mean, it's very simple, right? It's very simple human actions and reactions. If you want good reactions to your beliefs and to your ideas, you should probably try to be good.
I want to give a shout out actually to one Muslim scholar who is very kind to me, and Khalil. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go too far because I don't want people messaging people. This is the stuff that they've done already, by the way. I had they said they weren't a Muslim to my friend, Dr. Joshua Bowen. Me and him are like this, bro. And they emailed him and said, do not come on his show anymore. Do not have nothing to do with him, blah, 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 blah. What the? Do you know what you're doing to me when you do that? You are making me more passionate about this. Like, if you want the flames to dwindle, if you want it to go down to something that's not as hot, do not try to stir the waters and make me get more and more obsessed with trying to expose, because I will get to the bottom of this and I will find out from expert PhDs who've read Arabic, who know the sources, who go back to first, second, third, fourth, fifth canonization of this text. I want to find out the sources now more than ever. And you can tell I've got a little passion here, but it's like I don't see this from Christians as much. And when they do respond, it's like their worldview reaction is more, they have more of a persecution complex, right? So it's like they internalize it. And I'm like, I'm not falling for that feel bad just because I'm being critical of the religion. But even at the end of the day, you see the concept of like, I'll die for my faith rather than kill for it. I don't see that kind of reaction. I see a militant mindset in a lot of these messages and very aggressive on trying to poison the well. They want me to be dishonest. They want me to be a liar. They want me to be this. They want me to be that already. So when this spreads out there in the Islamic community on YouTube, none of them are going to take me serious, right? At the end of the day, that's fine. They're going to do that because they're wanting to protect their own beliefs, and that's okay.
So you are thinking of hosting Muslim scholars on your channel as well, as long as they agree to talk to you, as long as they agree to have some affiliation with your channel and with your work.
I interview Christian scholars that are PhDs, okay? And they are the coolest people in the world. Like, I mean, they're wonderful. I'm friends with them. I want to be friends with Muslim scholars. I'm not interested in apologists. There's a big difference to me. Honestly, I've been engaging in this for a long time. I have a PhD, for example. His name's Ian Mills. He's a Duke University candidate here in North Carolina. By the way, I live in North Carolina. Oh, why would you say where you live? I live in a military town, okay? I want you to know I'm the son of a Green Beret. Oh. If someone were to come to my house, I swear on everything, they're going to regret that they came to my house. That's all I got to say. Bottom line. So when people are like, are you afraid to get your head cut off? I'm in America. I got a Second Amendment. And let me tell you, I'm not afraid to use it. So the bottom line is I should be allowed in this free country to talk about various things. And I do it to Christianity. I do it to Judaism. I'm interested in doing this to Islam and to understand why are we not allowed to talk about this the same way we do the other religions?
I love the attitude, man.
I mean, it's a fact, bro. It is. And that's the thing. The more that's going to come, the more I'm just going to show it. and let people see the true colors of what we have. There are very nice Muslims out there too. So I'm interested in being critical. Nice Muslims don't care what I have to say because they don't watch my channel. They're not out there on YouTube trying to defend a religion. They're just living their lives based on belief that they have, and they're happy doing so. But when you put yourself in a public place and you're interested in coming onto my channel, leaving comments on videos that have nothing to do with Islam, making truth claims that it's true, okay, well, let's see if it's true.
I want to say at this point, I also I also make use of the Second Amendment and the right to defend myself. Yeah, no, I totally also make use of that. And I also live in America. I just want to appear equally strong right now. I'm totally inspired by the strength that you have just radiated here.
Man, I've grew up with Muslim friends. This was never a topic growing up, faith. You know, they say stay away from politics and stay away from religion at the dinner table, right? I love studying this stuff because, let's be honest, I think the Bible, and I'm sorry for you Christians out there, is human in its origin. And it is men in antiquity trying to describe their own worldview that they understand, whether they borrowed concepts and it was just in the air in the ancient Near East, Old Testament, getting into the New Testament during a Hellenistic period where potentially you have Greco-Roman mythology and you have some form of Hellenistic Judaism taking place. All of that is human in origin to me. And I can explain why these narratives may have come to scene, why Jesus rose from the dead. You know, all of this stuff. I have my own explanations as human origins and explanations that might make sense that a Christian would not accept. I want to do the same thing in looking into Islam.
Yeah, and we should be having the right to talk about it. As I said, we have debates about these things. We have public discussions and conversations about these things. We can be on complete opposite sides of, a certain debate about a political idea or a religious belief, and we do this all the time. And it doesn't cause big problems. We don't feel the need to beat up each other or to kill each other or to say the worst things possible about each other. We should be able to do the same thing about Islam. And I mean, I do encourage this. I am here. People often describe me as one of the biggest enemies of Islam, as recently said by certain people. And is this what an enemy does? I mean, I want to have conversations. I want to have discussions. I want to have debates with people who believe in this religion. I want to have conversations with scholars of this religion. This is what we should be doing for a proper world in which we are allowed to think, and where we are allowed to make up our own minds. Make it possible. Make it. I
agree. Well, I mean, when you start with that already, AP, you start with, I don't think that this is actually really a miracle, or Gabriel actually is speaking these things to Muhammad. I want to know the sources.
How dare you be an Islamophobic bigot?
Well, that's the problem. See, that's the problem. And the fact that even comes up it's just evidence of people's insecurities. And so I'm not here to poke fun at that either. I think that they really feel like they need to defend it inside because they're very insecure about this thing, or they're protecting their own worldview. I had the same thing when I was a Christian. I would go out and try to debate, but and engage and protect my worldview. And now I'm not a Christian. And I think that more harms are done due to these religions than. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah.
Only Islamophobes don't believe that Gabriel talked to Muhammad. No, just kidding.
Oh my God.
The issue is, I grew up a Muslim, and I grew up in a very religious household, in a very religious family. I myself became very religious at some point, and I was involved in very religious circles, Muslim circles. And the problem is that as a Muslim, even among the least religious Muslims, just regular average Muslim families, you learn things from a very young age that prime you to think about others, about those who question, as evil, unreliable enemies. And this is not, this is the fault of that certain thing that you are indoctrinated with. It's not an ethnic problem. It's not something that is that is in your blood, or in your brain, that you can't get rid of. It is something that is taught to you. I learned as a very young person that as a child, I learned that it is us us Muslims against the disbelievers, and the world basically consists of the good ones, who are the Muslims, and the evil ones, who are the disbelievers, the rejectors. I mean, this is stuff that I learned, and this is quite normal in regular traditional Muslim ideology. This is known as al-wala wal-bara, which is an ideology that is basically translated as I forgot what it's translated as, but basically, loyalty and disavowal, where you are supposed to love your fellow Muslims and be loyal to your fellow Muslims, and you are to disavow and reject and dissociate yourself from those who disbelieve in your religion, because the Quran says that it is Muslims are one people, and the disbelievers are allies of one another. This is what the Quran actually says. They are allies of one another. And the phrase "Muslims are one nation" and the disbelievers are one nation is a phrase that is very well known in the Islamic world. So as a Muslim growing up, you learn that Islam is the absolute truth, and Allah is the authoritarian God that a God is, and you are His obedient servant, His slave. And you are supposed to stay absolutely loyal to this. If you dare to have doubts, you might go astray and betray your nation, betray yourself, betray everybody, and you will end up with horrible, unbelievable torture in the afterlife, which is graphically described throughout the Quran. And when you listen to when you hear doubters, when you hear others who make comments about your religion, or who question your religion, who ask questions about your religion, you learn that those people are simply liars, outsiders, deceivers, who don't like your religion and who want to change you, who want to take your religion away from you because they know it's the truth, but they just can't stand it. Things like these sentiments prime Muslims to react a certain way to outsiders, to those who question. And the biggest victims here are Muslims themselves.
Yeah.
The biggest victims are they, because it is the Muslim himself who is prevented from opening his mind and changing his mind, and becoming a different person, seeing the world differently, enjoying things in a different way. The primary victim here in this case is the Muslim, and then everybody else who has to experience the results of that.
I will say this, and I'm going to catch some crap from your Christian audience, but I have to give an analogy, because you were a Muslim. If I'm not mistaken, you were Muslim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to make sure that we're having a dialogue and not a one-way street, because this is really important. You know what it's like for the switch to go off and for you to start seeing things they can't see, because they're in a bubble that actually tells them not to look at those things, or that thing is wrong. Don't even test it. Don't even try to entertain it. Shove those doubts down. Well, I did the same thing as a Christian. And the idea that Islam is the idea of submission to Allah. You know what I mean? Well, in the New Testament, you're slaves of Christ. The difference is the ideology there. Whereas with Christ, it's persecution complex. It's the idea of going to your death or willing to die for your faith, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in Islam, it's more militant. And there's this idea that you're willing to kill, or even possibly even die for it. But the idea is willing to kill and do these things that you could see happening in more extremist versions of Islam. And I'm looking at this. I don't want anyone taking this to the bank like, oh, Derek knows, because a lot of these people probably that are going to watch this are skeptics of what I'm saying. And I say skeptics because they're from the worldview of Islam. I'm going to ask the experts. I do the same thing in Christianity, and I make up my own mind. But it's very difficult to find experts who are there dissecting Quran, Islam, the whole faith. It's not as common as Christianity for criticism. And that's a big problem. I think we need more of that. And that's allowed Christianity to kind of conform and get used to this idea. People aren't being burned at the stake, for example, for not believing in the Trinity 300-400 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You didn't believe in the Trinity. You were getting killed, if they found out. So I want people to start to conform to the culture in a way. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm. That's my goal. That's well put. Very, very well put. I have to just say, in order to abide with what is expected from me, please don't say anything else that is offensive to Christians and Christianity, because my masters will be very angry with that. That's actually the stereotype. That's actually what the expectation, the idea that many Muslims and Muslim apologists have about me and people like me, that we are funded by these masters, which is why we are supposed to say certain things. And
do they really believe that?
there are many people who actually do believe. I mean, it is very stupid to, I don't know, it's very absurd to imagine that that is actually a reality that they believe to be true, but many people actually do believe that. And many people accuse us of being, I don't know, agents, spies, and things like that. It's ridiculous.
I say that because those accusations are done to me as well. I'm supposedly a Freemason. I'm part of the Illuminati. If you watch some of my early video intros, there's an eyeball. In fact, my logo is an eyeball. Myth vision. You get to see the myth. And they're like, oh, that eye, that's the all-seeing eye of Horus and this and this and that. And they're going into this. And I said, well, I haven't received my first paycheck from them yet, but I'd look forward to it if they were ever willing to send me one. Because I'm a critic, man. What do you want me to do?
I used to make fun of the whole notion that I'm being paid by Jews, and that was a long-running gag. And eventually, I got tired of it. But wow. It is still happening. There are even videos of me where they try to depict me as a Jew, saying we know nothing about his history and look at his nose, and like, dude, the nose? Are you kidding me? And there's some very serious, hateful stuff out there. Even the one video where I said on a live stream that I took an ancestry DNA test, and I uploaded it on some other DNA platform, which told me that I have 12% ancestry related to Sephardic Jewish origins. And some people actually took that and made a video of it in which they said, Apostate Prophet just helped us expose himself. And then they put me on the thumbnail as one of those stereotypical Jewish.
We all knew all along
things,
We all knew.
It's so insane what kind of stuff people come up with, what they want to think about when they don't like your ideas. I want to read super chats here.
Yeah.
I want to put them on the screen. Unfortunately, YouTube still has a very terrible system when it comes to super chats. Man, they have so many things that they do. Maybe come up with an idea to pin the super chats on the screen if you want to read them,
Right.
So I will share my screen here quickly to show the super chats on my YouTube tab so that I can look through those and read those very carefully and nicely. Give me 1 second. I bet there are some questions for you. Okay.
I'm down, yeah.
All right. So, is this big enough for everybody to read, to see?
Ooh.
So,
if you read it, I'm sure we'll be fine.
The first one is a Turkish super chat, which says, I am translating your videos. Can you please look? Okay, I will have a look. Dear Yasin, thank you so much. I will check. Greg Conowitz said, how dare Derek analyze Islam? Astaghfirullah.
Well, I do it to everyone else. I mean, this is the thing. There's been only one or two people who actually said, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, they just seemed like, hey, we want you to do that. But then they had a caveat. They went, we don't mind you being an analyst or critic of Islam by going to experts, but these ex-Muslims, that's the problem. I can't talk to you. I can't talk to Zara K. I can't talk to Arvin. I can't talk to people who are not Muslim anymore because they can't really bring anything to the table. If you were a Muslim and you left, it's like an ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend. This is what they'll say, right? But I know as an ex-Christian, if I really wanted to hear what the, I guess you say, problems with a religion would be, I would usually go to them. Or for example, I've had Rabbi Tovia Singer come on and talk about anti-Judaism or anti-Semitism in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
mean, I have a Jew who's looking at the New Testament trying to understand. And he says this before. I want to understand why I've had attacks just for being Jewish from certain Christians. And he said, after reading the New Testament, I see who's always blamed. Pharisees, Sadducees, leadership, but then also in the Gospel of John, Jews are to blame. And there was a lot of anti-Semitism throughout church history. So I ask a Jew to come on and poke at the New Testament. Why not?
It's a very terrible analogy that I've heard often, which is, that, how can you, it's like going to the ex-Muslims is like going to the ex-girlfriend or going to the ex-partner and all that. I mean, it's a horrible analogy. The analogy would be more accurate if we were talking about being born into a certain relationship and not being allowed to get out of that relationship, and being threatened with death if you want to get out of that relationship. But then despite that, you get out and tell the world what you have seen, what you have experienced, and what you know. That would be a slightly more accurate analogy, I would say.
Right.
Or maybe it's like buying a product from Amazon, or a product on Amazon is imposed on you from birth, and you cannot get rid of this product, and you cannot leave bad reviews. Leaving bad reviews is not possible. If you get rid of the product, then you will be executed. If you leave a bad review, you will be executed. But finally, you have found a way to actually get rid of the product and to leave bad reviews.
Right.
And now you just want to look at those bad reviews to see what the hell they are saying, why they are being critical, just to understand more about the background of this. And those people are still saying, hey, don't read the bad reviews. Of course, the bad reviews won't say anything good about the product.
Yeah. For me, it's more like social ostracizing for being an ex-Christian. It's not like an actual threat. And look, I've never been a Muslim. I can't even tell you what it would be like living in the world of one, which is why I interview ex-Muslims. I have a lot more in common. For those who want to go, why is you only interviewing ex? I am going to have scholars who are Muslims on, but I actually can relate to the stories that they've had for leaving the faith and what they started to realize about these things. So anyway. Next super chat.
Next one. Okay. Where we just read that. Hindu historian said, does it ever frustrate you how vast ignorance of Islam is among the woke left? It's such a shallow and vapid movement that it would be comical if it weren't so harmful and toxic. What is your experience with that, Derek?
So read it again. Does it ever frustrate you how vast ignorance of Islam is among the woke left? Yeah, I mean, what really gets me is I think that I'll use atheists, for example. People who, like me, are afraid to actually engage in this for many reasons. It's almost like what I have noticed, and why I am tiptoeing a very fine line. I want to be very careful when I do go into this, and that I'm focused on the content and being critical about the basis of the religion. All of that is because the same problem can happen when you examine Judaism. I know people who've been said to be haters of Jews or anti-Semitic or whatever for actually engaging and trying to poke at Judaism. There's a fine line you can walk and a scholarly approach to being critical. And then the other side is being an outright hater to the point where they go, you hate Jews or something like that. I think a lot of atheists are afraid, though, for the death threats, everything they see. You can't even you can't even draw the guy comically. But Jesus is all over the place as a joke and memes and everything else you could see. Yeah, so you can do that with Jesus, but don't you dare. And this is just in recent history, in memory, that people are put to death, or at least they're going to die. People are hunting a man for drawing a picture of Muhammad. It's a little obsessive to me.
And they celebrated his death as, wow, finally it happened. And
yeah, he's in hell now. And
yeah.
Kind of thing. It's
an old man who died at a reasonable age to die. Anyway, Mr. Monster said Allah was Muhammad's imaginary friend.
I know Mr. Monster. He comes from MythVision, I think. And Mr. Monster, I think you're right, my friend. But he wasn't just Muhammad's imaginary friend. I think, the word for Allah is God. And I think they're just going from the same monotheistic traditions that have been handed on. Of course, they don't want the Trinity, so you got to have Jesus kind of fit their picture. But yeah.
There's actually more background to this. I want to talk to you about that lengthily. I made a whole video about this. The entire notion that Allah is merely a translation of God is not really entirely accurate. Allah comes from the origin El-Ilah, which means the God. So it is the generic word, for deity, for God, has become the proper name of the God of Islam within Islam. But Islam Islamic sources, Islam in general, Muhammad and Muslims are entirely unaware of the actual identity of the God of Abraham, the God of Christianity, and the God of Judaism. The name Yahweh, for example, is entirely unfamiliar to Islam, does not appear at all. You know, in Christianity and Judaism, God's name is not God, or, you know, Allah or Ilah or whatever it is. A God has a name, and God is merely a title. In Islam, that suddenly changes out of ignorance, most likely in Muhammad's time, where his name is simply the God, you know, Allah.
This is something I want to look into with the skeptic or the scholars. Sorry, I want to look into them and see how they answer that, and then maybe Muslim scholars who try to defend, maybe see what they say, or not apologists, but I know the scholars coming from a worldview that are practicing Islam, they have boundaries. You pointed that out in your interview where you had a show. I told you that the aggressive guy, the Muslim who was really aggressive. What was his name again?
Which one?
The one that like is super hyper and acts like he's going to do some damage or wants to meet you in a park to debate or so. I can't remember what his name was.
Oh, you mean Mojab? Is that Mojab?
I think so.
Yeah, that's his name. Mojab.
Yeah, all I know is that he interviewed an expert in this who is also a Muslim, and he's like, "Well, there's a secret. Yeah, we can't go there. There's a secret to the public, and I really don't want to go there." Like, it's like, whoa, where do you not want to go, and what is the problem here? My ears perk up. I want to know what he's saying we aren't supposed to know.
I get that. That's good. All right. Greg Kanowitz said, "But I thought Islam is the religion of peace." Yeah, so did many.
No comment. I'm just kidding. I still got a lot of learning to do here, and I think that most Muslims are probably peaceful. But if you do stir the hornet's nest, which is their beliefs, you're going to get some hornets pissed. And I'm not doing it to poke the hornet's nest. I come out wanting to let people know you don't need these things to live a happy life, to have happiness, joy, to live a moral life. You don't need these rules, these constructs that we call religions in order to do so.
Alan Bird made a super chat and said, "Derek has a great channel. I would like to know what AP thinks of Robert Spencer. Many scholars are critical of his work and his political agenda. Want to know what I think about Robert Spencer?" Well, I had him on my channel before. I talked to him before. I had a few exchanges with him. He told me that he likes my stuff. I was following his work. Of course, we have completely different methods, completely different approaches to Islam and to Muslims in general. I have disagreements with how he approaches social situations when it comes to Muslims. I think he's mostly on point, mostly correct when it comes to analyzing Islam. But yeah, that's just it. We have differences, different approaches. But
yeah. And I got his book right here. I have not opened it yet, but he wants me to interview him soon on the channel. And just for those who are watching, I've had some Muslims actually tell me, "Ha ha ha ha, you idiot. I can't believe you're actually going to read this guy's book. You're stupid. His theory's been disproven over and over." Well, I think they'll say that of anyone that doesn't agree with them. They'll agree. They are going to say that no matter what. So before you get discouraged on looking into theories, I honestly, this is one of the reasons I don't go to Muslims. I'm not interested in hearing you only defend no matter what. She wasn't 9 years old. You name it. Like, there's always an apologetic to get out. And so where are you going to find honesty on this religion? You got to go to people who aren't like trying to protect it. And I don't know if if Muhammad existed or not. So
you can only talk to those who agree with the religion. I'm sorry. Right. That's how it works.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Lord Damon has made a super chat and said, "Becca of Mecca called me to." Becca of Mecca called me today. She wants my body. What should I do? Should I turn my Becca on her? What?
I don't know.
Is that a reference to? That sounds very. It sounds like a song. I don't know.
It does. I think it's a reference to me talking about I'm looking for holes. I can't help but think.
But it's nice. So I made a whole video yesterday about the whole Muslim claim that Mecca is found in the Bible as the Valley of Becca, and it is just such a big joke. I don't know. I made a whole video that is like 20 minutes long, in which I actually invested a lot of time and effort because nobody takes it seriously, and I'm just the guy who takes stupid stuff like that seriously and analyzes it thoroughly.
I want to tell everybody real quick. Super chat your questions in. We're taking questions. If you didn't know this already, please help out AP. You're driving more content to get people aware of this, but also we're happy to take your question and have fun here on the screen. So let's start a chain of super chat questions and like send them in. Anyway,
Derek, this is my channel. How dare you boost?
I know.
How dare you boost my channel here?
I'm serious though. I love having engagement with the audience. It's fun.
No, it's nice. Definitely. I think so too. Yeah, there are some chats that are coming in later on that I will put up at a separate time. This is kind of weird. Greg Conowitz said, Derek, they are afraid that you will destroy Islam. That's why they want to deter you from reading about it. That's basically very much what we have been saying and what Derek doesn't. I don't want to speak for him, but that's what I think.
Well, if I could comment, look, I agree. I'm not going to be able to destroy it. No one is just going to destroy this thing. It's a long time of people somehow being capable of looking at their foundations and testing and challenging that. I see the same problem in other worldviews that I critique. So that same statement, they're afraid or they'll come on, but they at least allow the critique, even if they disagree. So
I agree. Thomas Garth said Hadith point to Mr. Medical Doctor as the Dajjal. Total inside jokes. Medical Doctor is Zakir Naik, who I started calling him the Medical Doctor because I made a video about him in which I repeatedly put in his the phrase where he says, I'm a medical doctor, where he talks some complete garbage about evolution. And ever since, that has kind of become a meme. I'm very happy about that and very proud of that. And the Dajjal is the Islamic antichrist figure who is supposed to come in the end times and whom Muslims expected in Muhammad's time, and they have been expecting him for 1,400 years now. And he's a guy with one eye dangling out, and he's supposed to go make the whole world go wild, and of course, no surprise, lots of Jews will be following him and all that. It's very crazy. Greg Conowitz made a super chat and said they are hiding something, Derek. It's obvious.
Well, I mean, when you have a Muslim himself say it, I don't even have to say it for him, and you don't either. We had the interview that you caught of I can't remember this guy's name. I don't know why, because he's so powerful and talks like he's, I don't know,
Muhammad Hijab. Yeah.
Muhammad Hijab, and he's interviewing this other scholar who's like supposed to have, this is what gets me. It was like, okay, this is huge. He's like, okay, so there's some things we for the public to not know that we find out. And it's almost like he found a moment in his research as an expert in this that like really challenged his faith. And notice as he was describing this, he kept talking about, no, but I stick to this and I stick to that. And the word is true. And it's from Allah and all this. He's like trying to already defend the very statements. He's trying to be honest.
What you're talking about is it's a very detailed conversation and a very detailed background to it. It actually went viral. It has become a meme known as the holes in the narrative. That was an interview between Yasser Qadhi and Muhammad Hijab, where Muhammad Hijab basically asks about the authenticity and the variations between versions of the Quran. You know, different readings of the Quran and different texts of the Quran. And he repeatedly asks Yasser Qadhi, who is a scholar of Islam, about whether Yasser Qadhi can verify that the Quran is word for word, letter for letter, symbol for symbol, the exact same Quran that we had at the beginning. And if Muhammad Hijab gave him an empty paper, if he could write down the Quran exactly as it was, exactly as it is supposed to be. And Yasser Qadhi basically starts, squirming a little bit and trying to evade the question, and says that this is a matter that we should should not be discussing in public, because there is a standard narrative about the preservation of the Quran and the variations of the Quran. But when you study the text and when you study Islam, you begin to realize, as you dive deeper into it, that there are holes in the standard narrative. And so that phrase became a meme. And he then goes on to explain that this is a very difficult topic, which I can't summarize. He doesn't want to summarize. It raises a lot of doubts about why this whole, the whole variations in Quran versions, in Quran texts and Quran readings happened, and what exactly that does to the entire narrative, that the Quran is co-eternal with Allah in heaven before the creation of humankind, word for word, letter for letter, and that it exists in the same form here on earth. If there are different variations and different readings and this and that of the Quran, then it can't be that is the case. Right. So and there are so many different layers to this discussion. It's a very big topic. I would suggest looking into it.
You're actually right. It is super complex, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I wouldn't do it any justice trying to summarize it here right now, so I don't even want to try too hard. So here we are. Greg Kinowitz said, Derek, look into J. Smith and Houghton Tash's work on uncovering the many variants of the Quran, which destroys the claim that there is only one Quran. See what we just talked about. Yeah.
J. Smith, I've emailed him. I'll email him again, but here's the difficulty. A lot of these guys, and I'd love this to happen. I'd love to talk with Matt Wood, for example, and other people. And I think that Matt would definitely have a conversation with me about this if we stuck to Islam the best we could. It'd be we try our best, to focus on that, because I think we have a common agenda on trying to understand what is going on here. I do the same thing when I interview Rabbi Tovia Singer. I don't interview him to critique the Torah or to have him try to say what the truth is about the Torah, right? Because he's a believer from that position. I use that to talk about the New Testament. I'd like to do the same thing with Matt Wood and Jay Smith, but I haven't received a response yet, and I don't know if Jay saw my channel and said, hell no.
I think I can help you get in touch with him.
That'd be cool, man. I have nothing against these guys. I think they're super sharp when it comes to Islam.
When it comes to Islam, that's what you said. Okay,
I'm being polite. Yes, and no, but seriously, I brilliant men. That's all I need to say is that's. The case.
I will try. I will do that. And okay, let's move on. Any speech against Islam is seen as devil's whisper. Exactly, kind of. Yes.
What did he just say? I'm just kidding.
Tonushi made a super chat and said, have you run into Muslims who, instead of being ignorant, are outright lying about their faith and doctrines? And are there similar Christians and Jews? I can't say too much about this. What is your observation so far, Derek?
Just in a live, I'm not going to say outright lying or ignorant. I would say on a live I did with you, I think it was, and other people, I invited multiple Muslims. No, you weren't on that one. 2 Muslims started arguing over Aisha's age and this Quran passage talking about prepubescent, post-pubescent, that kind of thing, or post, what do you call it? Anyway, she can't have her period anymore, or before she's ever had her period, and the marriage. And I'm talking about, one of them called the other one Taliban. Okay, I'm not kidding you. I stood back like as an atheist on my channel going, what? I'm watching and they're like arguing so much. He's like, you're lying. No, the text says. And then the other was like, no, this is. And they're on my channel and I'm sitting here listening. And to me, they did all the work. I didn't have to do anything. It was like they did it to show. I think that they're really trying to defend it for modern context a lot of times. And that might be the case, or maybe they really are being honest and thinking that's the truth. I don't know.
Next time, form a panel of 5 Muslims and ask them where Allah is, and then watch how it works out.
It's horrible.
It is. Where is Allah is one of those topics that in Islamic history it has caused so much controversy and so much trouble. Early Islamic history was troubled by that. People called each other all kinds of names and heresies because of that. People still, in today's time, different theological schools call other theological schools kafir, disbeliever over that matter, because some believe that Allah is literally physically up there above his throne, sitting there. Some people believe he's only he's up there outside of his creation, somewhere metaphorically on his throne. Some believe Allah is everywhere. Some believe Allah is literally within everything, and it's like they will call each other all kinds of things over that matter. It's a very funny topic. Yeah. Okay. Derek Ganowitz said, Derek, for the full story, talk with ex-Muslim and Muslims.
I am going to have, I will say this, Greg, I am going to have Muslim scholars. If you get just a generic person off the street who's a Muslim, how do we know that they represent or are accurately portraying whatever sect they come from, Sunni, or they might be whatever they might be? You know, how do I know they're representing it or portraying it accurately? And that's another problem I've already noticed. I could have a scholar who's a Sunni and then another scholar who's a Sunni, and they disagree too. And it's like, which one agrees with which within their own, you know, their own denomination, as we would call it in Christianity, or different versions. It's complex. So I am wanting to bring actual Muslims that are scholars, that are respectable on the channel, to give a more balanced view. But apologists that are Muslims, I'm not really interested in that on my channel.
Okay, thank you so much. Hakan made a super sticker which says critical hit. Thank you so much, Hakan. Stefan Milojevich made a super chat and said, how do you guys respond when Muslims tell you that you committed presentism fallacy when you criticize Momo for sleeping with a 9-year-old? Well, I would believe I'm more familiar with this, and I get this a lot. But there are different aspects of it. But in all honesty, I generally do not criticize Muhammad's marriage to a 9-year-old girl or to a 6-year-old girl, which he then practiced and had intercourse at when she was 9. I don't criticize it from the perspective of, you know, he was wrong or he was bad. That's not what I go for, because I know that they will immediately make the objection that was normal back then. Other people did it, this and that. That's not. I don't really care about that aspect of it. What I care about here, when I criticize the whole pedophilia issue, is that Muhammad is supposed to be, according to Islam, the perfect example for all mankind, timelessly, for eternity. He is supposed to be the perfect human to follow, to emulate, which is why revivalist, religious Muslim groups, movements, circles, individuals try to emulate Muhammad as much as possible. So if Muhammad is indeed rightly guided by Allah and constantly inspired by Allah, and he is the perfect example, but he goes and marries a 6-year-old girl and has sexual intercourse with that girl when she's 9 years old. Picture a 9-year-old girl, or don't picture it. It's disgusting. That is simply terrible and hard to accept with everything that we nowadays know about children, about child development, about how marriage and sexual intercourse would impact a child, how that child would develop, how that would affect the mental health and the physical health and the sexual health of a child. It is unacceptable to reconcile those two things, that he did do that and that he's the perfect example for all mankind. That is the problem. So presentism has nothing to do with that.
I think the difficulty I've ran into, just simply put, if you use the example of slavery, how does everyone watching this show right now feel about slavery? Is it good? Should it be okay? Well, I look at the Old Testament, right? I'll see laws and I see no abolishing of this. I mean, the only place you do see it is the fact that you're not supposed to own your own fellow Israelite, but not everybody's an Israelite. You can own foreigners, strangers, and sojourners and whatnot, capture people for war, especially women, as sex slaves and concubines for pleasure and reproduction. No abolition of this. Nowhere did Jesus turn and go, it's over, no more slavery. Example. And I use that to say, if God's all-knowing and the morality is the same, you should see that these laws, if this is from God, are all good for all mankind at all times. Do you think it's okay to sleep with 9-year-olds? Is an example. If that are true, if that's really what Muhammad did, was sexually, go and have sex with, is it Aisha?
Yeah.
If that happened, then why wouldn't that be okay for all time? And why isn't slavery good for all time? And why don't we have that? Like, presentism runs into that. How do you as a human being feel about modern day slavery? If we actually start to do this again, conquering people and making them your chattel slaves, not just indentured servitude.
Here is the thing. I want to respond to one quick comment here, which seems to entirely miss the point, which happens very, very often. And I received this criticism even in form of mockery from certain Muslim apologists before, which is very ironic to me. But here is the comment saying from Muhammad Said. He says, "Apostate prophet, what the hell was that? A minute ago, you said you had no problem." Well, the issue is, look, what I said, I think can be distinguished. I'm not sure if I was clear enough. But what I said is that I am not criticizing Muhammad for being a mere human in the 7th century who did certain things. That's not what I'm doing. I don't really care about that, because Muhammad is a random human figure in the 7th century. There were so many people. There are so many people in his surrounding, in his environment, in his time, who did terrible things that cannot really be properly judged within the standards of our time. The same thing was, for example, said about slavery. I said in the past, I cannot judge somebody who had slaves, 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago. I cannot say, wow, what a horrible person. He had slaves. I cannot say that, because it was normal back then to have slaves. I don't know if it was normal in Muhammad's time to have a child bride. I think it was not the most normal thing. But I could not say that he's bad based on our understanding today of child marriage. And that is not even my point. I'm saying that Muhammad is a moral example according to the Islamic narrative for all humanity, everywhere, forever. And I'm sorry, in today's time, it is unacceptable to own slaves, to have sex slaves, and to have a child bride at the age of 9. That is the issue. You have to distinguish between those two things.
And that's the argument I'll bring with the biblical stuff that I've been doing for so long, as I'm starting to now look at Islam, is I'll say that, like, okay, we have a God, all-knowing, all-powerful, supposedly can see the end from the beginning, right? And here you have a context in which we're living in now that this isn't happening. Why would I think that this is actually God doing these things and not men from antiquity? Seems to be more of a human origin rather than divine. And that's what I would say, the same thing probably happening here, looking into Islam. So.
Stefan Milojevic, I just responded to that. Crusader General. Oh, wait, let me bring the things up here. What did I do? What have I done? Crusader General said something. Yeah.
Where?
I cannot read.
Oh, wow. Okay, that looks like it might be. Is that Greek or Russian?
Cyrillic is Russian. Yeah. I have no idea what it says.
Common perception among haters.
Если в экране нет.
You could copy and paste it.
Tell me if I'm reading it right. Somebody who knows how to read it. I think I'm reading it right. No, something like that. What is it? Is that a P or is that a? I think it's a P here. And this is an L. Pili. This is an sh. I don't know. I didn't read this. I haven't read this stuff in a long, long time. But I learned like many, many years ago to read this script.
Wow.
Somebody will probably tell me
that. Yeah.
Somebody will probably tell me I did a horrible job, and it's okay. It's fine. Brandon Temu said, thoughts on Buddhism. Derek, thoughts on Buddhism?
I mean, I've got some friends who are Buddhist, and they went that route when they were getting clean off drugs, and I guess it helped them. But when it comes to knowing much about it, I haven't done a deep dive. I've talked to Robert Price, who studied Buddhism, and his wife, I think, is fond of it. But they have a lot of hells as well in Buddhism. So this idea of going to places of punishment or burning off your bad karma kind of stuff, that's in their teachings as well. And Dr. Price said there's hundreds of versions of hell there. But I haven't looked into it myself, and it's something I might do at some point because I like to talk about all of the myths.
Okay, here is somebody who actually writes in that script. Stefan Miljevic, who is from Serbia, I believe, said, okay, I will read. It says, terrible reading. Good one, Stefan. Thank you.
I can't stand it. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the kind words.
Buddhism. I'm actually very interested in Buddhism. For some people, notice that when I on live streams, I play with my mala beads here that I have for meditation purposes and for distraction, because I have severe ADHD and I'm trying to distract myself and stay focused as much as possible. And I have been very much interested in Buddhism for its philosophy, for what it specifically focuses on, and I went into studying psychology and neuroscience, and I was very surprised to suddenly encounter studies of Buddhism and connections between Western neuroscientists and psychologists and Buddhists, or even with the Dalai Lama himself. And I found that extremely interesting. So I started looking more into Buddhism. And I mean, as a life philosophy, it's a very interesting philosophy. And I like that Buddhism doesn't concern itself too much with trying to understand the origins and what will happen to you. Buddhism has a different approach, which is more like trying to live the right way instead of worrying about what will happen if you don't live the right way. And it's interesting. Yeah. Hookah Smoking Caterpillar said, if Mo was a prophet, what exactly did he prophesy? He prophesied a lot of things, such as that the world will end within 100 years. He prophesied that before this young boy in his presence gets too old, Judgment Day will come, or the last hour will come. He prophesied that people will fight the Muslims will fight the Romans, and then the Judgment Day is going to come soon. People will conquer Jerusalem, and then Judgment Day will come soon. People will conquer Constantinople, and Judgment Day will come soon. He prophesied so many such things. That's why he's considered a prophet, and clearly not a very reliable prophet, I have to say. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, that really piques my interest, because I know that they try to incorporate Jesus into their apocalyptic ideas, but I did not know that. I'll have to look into what you just said and see where that leads me, because I'm big into understanding apocalyptic, or the idea that the end is in all of these different versions. Even Second Temple Judaism does this, early Christianity, of course, in the New Testament. Here we have it in Islam. And every doomsday prediction, I repeat, has 100% opportunity to fail. Every single one of them. So if the claim is, and there's some way to prove it was in the context then and it hasn't happened, well, there's one way to say he's not actually a prophet of God. And that's something to look into.
How dare you say that? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? I read that. Joseph Costi said the Quran just took everything from the Bible and put their own twist on it. But we are in the end times. The government is trying to start own world government. The Bible predictions are coming true. Well, I would say, first off, for the first point, the Quran tries to take from the Bible and takes a lot of things, just confuses them and puts them in a very, very weird way that they become very confusing and disorganized. So the Quran is a terrible book in comparison. It has to be said, to be fair, that the Bible was organized in a much better way by people who knew how to organize books, whereas the Quran comes from a source that has no literature, nothing, and it's just a collection of weird rants. And but as for the end times, I mean, people have been thinking that we are in the end times forever. I feel like if aliens were observing us for thousands of years out there, and they saw that every generation is absolutely convinced that this must be the end, this is the end is very soon, they would think, dude, what the hell, man? Do these people never change? So I have to completely disagree with the with the weird notion that there is some end that is very near and that it's happening right now and everything is pointing at it. On the contrary, it looks like right now that is definitely not the case.
Yeah, it is the last hour, 2,000 years ago, and of course, 2 Peter 3, a day is as 1,000 years. This continues, and so I'm going to be consistent. I told AP when I came on I was going to try to mainly focus on Islam because I think that there is a lot of borrowing, though, and these ideas, these apocalyptic ones, do get carried over into it, it seems. But this is one of the reasons I left Christianity, actually, is in light of its prophetic claims within the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an imminent return that was supposed to take place. The end was supposed to happen then. And of course, that gets stretched out in 2 Peter 3. And lots of Christians will jump right to that. Days 1,000 years, 1,000 years a day. Well, technically, then no one knows that we're in the last days because we don't really know until it actually happens. So we need to stop saying that because it's been 2,000 years. And
yeah. Well, if you believe in God and if you believe in the religious narrative, then you have to inevitably also believe in the imminent or the end that is coming at some point, be it imminent or be it far in the future. You have to somehow believe in that, and you will believe in some form of narrative in order to stay consistent with that belief. And it's just part of that belief, unfortunately.
I see a comment from Revelation 22:13. I want to get to your super chat. I just want to point out in Revelation, my friend, in the first chapter and the last chapter, Jesus is saying, well, first the Father's given to the angel to tell John of things which must soon take place, the things that are written in this book. The end of the book talks about, do not seal up the words of the prophecies that are in this book. For the time is at hand. Behold, I'm coming quickly. This is supposed to happen then. 666, the number, that is the number of the beast. We're talking about Nero, Kaiser, Neron, Caesar. This is Nero. This is back in the 1st century. And when you look at the whole Revelation, you're going to find out real quick, this was all supposed to happen then. And this is all throughout the New Testament. This generation will not pass away. They want to reinterpret that word to mean race. The race of the Jews will not pass away until the end happens. And there's always like a way out. And I think what I've picked up while studying critically Christianity and Judaism, the same tactics of like, let me make this work this way to make it fit is being used in Islam. I bet you anything, I'm going to see the same thing over and over and over throughout all of these worldviews.
I was part of a religious Muslim community in which in which there was a lot of focus on the end, on apocalyptic narratives and trying to interpret prophecies of Muhammad and trying to fit them into the narrative of today, and basically trying to imply that anything that is happening around us is a sign of the coming end. And it's just I found it ridiculous at some point, and when I look back now, it's hilarious. And when I look into religious conversations nowadays, I see this sentiment among Muslims the entire time. Like there is some, I remember there was this whole thing, this volcano eruption in Iceland, which caused this huge smoke traveling over the whole world, like making it very cloudy. And then people immediately started saying, look, this is actually a prophecy that Muhammad made about the end times. It's coming true. The end is coming true. And this is happening and that is happening. And people have been making the same prophecy, people have been making the same claim about the same prophecy about several different things over a period of 20 years now. And it looks ridiculous to me as somebody who has observed this for 20 years, but that is nothing compared to the actual picture, which is that people have been making claims about such prophecies having come true for 1,400 years now in the Islamic narrative. And of course, the same thing is true within the whole apocalyptic idea within the Christian communities, because people have this. What I think about this is people have a very limited lifetime. You have, I don't know, on average nowadays 70 years to live. You had a much shorter lives in the past, and it is very hard to accept for you that you will just die and the world will simply go on without you. It's very hard to accept. So it is, of course, very comfortable for you to instead accept the idea that as your own life slowly gets shorter and goes toward death, the world will also, together with you, die and will not just go on without you for thousands of years. How could it be?
Well put. I can't comment on that. I agree 100%. It just keeps getting used. I know we got more super chats. I know.
Yeah. We do.
I keep getting you off of the path, man.
I know we're talking too much here. It's like you're talking too much. I'm talking too much. What is?
Hey, I want to say, if you don't like what I'm saying, look, I apologize.
I'll just kick you out.
Yeah, I apologize. You can just disagree with me. That's fine.
Okay. If I don't like what you say, I'll just kick you out and just go on without.
Yeah, talk crap about me. Make sure you do that, because if you don't, you're not being consistent. So.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Monster said, "Is Islam still the same without the hadiths?" Islam is not the same without the hadith. In fact, you could say that Islam is many of Islam's practices, maybe even most of Islam's practices, are built on the hadiths. So Islam relies very much on the hadiths. Hadiths are the reports about Muhammad and his companions, and so people who are Quran-only Muslims, we had one appear on your channel when I was there, take the hadiths entirely away and come up with a completely different Islam. So Islam really changes if you remove the hadiths.
I have no comment because I don't know this like he does. So.
Yeah. Alan Bird made a super sticker. Thank you so much. It's very cute. Robert Lode said, "There must be more than one God. We need more than one element for an explosion." I mean, that's just more thing to make inferences about. I don't think I want to go into that.
Thanks for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat very much. There's just one thing, which is okay. I will not drag this now. David Halliwell made a super chat and said, "I enjoy both of your channels. What I've learned is that the believers, both Muslims and Christians, have not actually read their holy books fully." Thank you so much. I know for a fact that the vast majority of Muslims have never read the Quran. They only recite specific verses within the Quran which are necessary for the prayer without knowing their meaning. If you would go for a percentage, if I could make a guess, I would say that maybe, 95% of Muslims have never read the Quran through. And among those that are left, among the 5%, only very few have read the Quran in a language that they understand. So for Muslims, it is actually true that the vast majority of Muslims have no clue about the contents of the Quran. But I can't speak for Christians.
Yeah, I have to disagree a little here, David. I think when maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I can't see omnisciently every Christian out there, but I read the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation as a Christian, and I was still a Christian for many years. I think the way we approach the text, I was taught by someone how to view it. I was taught by someone how to get around problems that someone else might have raised up. And so now I just look at it critically. I'm able to do so because at the beginning it was all my faith. I'm going to go to hell if I don't believe this. And, I had personal experience, all that stuff that played a role. So anyway, I can't say every Christian, but I think the point he's trying to make is that they aren't really understanding it. Rabbi Tovia Singer, I asked him about the Quran and memorization. He said, yeah, there's definitely some Muslims that memorize it, but they probably don't know what it actually means. And I was like, whoa.
That's the issue. There's a big thing about Islam where it is considered a virtue to memorize the Quran and to recite the Quran, but not to know and understand the Quran. And people are actually actively discouraged from reading the Quran in their own language, in a language that they understand, if they are from non-Arabic origins. And most Muslims are of non-Arabic origins and don't know Arabic. So I was discouraged from reading the Quran in a language that I understand. I was told to instead go to scholars and listen to them or read it with them. It's very ridiculous. In comparison, I know for a fact that many Christians do actually engage in Bible studies and read books. Especially they read I know from Christians that many of them read the New Testament very much with a focus on that. I know that my wife used to be a Christian. She has a history of studying and reading the Bible. So I wouldn't say it's the same, but that's just me. I can't make further claims about that. VJ Reddy said, why is the left aligned with Islam when Islamic law has no women's or LGBT rights? Well, I think the answer is very simple. It's just that in the West, it has become a virtue to be to be good and as compassionate and understanding as possible toward minorities. And people falsely and ignorantly and naively simply see Islam as the religion of people who happen to be a minority in the West, which is why they treat it with some absurd sensitivity, which they don't have for other religious beliefs.
Like Christianity or Judaism.
Yeah.
I agree, and I'm trying to be consistent. So for those of you who think I'm a fool, someone who doesn't believe in God, says in their heart there is no God, by definition of the Bible, I want you to know at least I'm being a consistent fool. I mean,
nicely, yeah, nice. What was that? There was some question about something that I just wanted to put up here and just look at because it was something personal. Oh, here. Abjanu said, how do you get to work with ADHD, Apostate Prophet? Well, it's a very interesting question. As a matter of fact, I actually wanted to make a video about that. See, I can give you an example as to how that works. I actually wanted to make a video about living and working with ADHD. It took me a very long time to sit down and to make that video, because I didn't know how exactly I should construct it. I changed my mind on it several times. Then I sat down and did record that video. But then it took me a very long time to sit down and work on that video. But as soon as I started working on that video, I realized that I don't really like the video because I was not very focused in that video. And then I wanted to edit parts of that video, but then I couldn't think how I should exactly organize it. So I was thinking of making another video about this. So I made a note of that, and then I completely forgot it, and it's gone now. So if you want to ask me how I work with ADHD, that's basically how I work with ADHD. My mind is constantly talking about different things, and music is playing in the background 24/7 as I'm thinking about, and then it's like, so that's happening, and it's very hard to organize your life, but I take medication for that. I do certain practices like meditating and focus practice, and it somehow works.
Yeah, you definitely told me about that.
Yeah,
ADHD is serious.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But
you got a lot of super chats. I don't know if you got to them, man.
I don't know why you are so angry about my super chat.
I'm so mad that we haven't made sure we get all the criticisms, because people are going to criticize.
I know. Benny Olison made a super sticker that says, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Joseph Costa said, but in the Old Testament, you weren't allowed to commit fornication or adultery. They broke the law. That's human, not God.
Ultimately, here's the deal. You weren't allowed to commit fornication and adultery. In the context that you see here, this isn't talking about go and get this virgins, all the virgins that haven't had sex in these particular regions. And it depends on the context you're talking about. There are even places where every man, woman, and child was to be put to death, including all their cattle in 1 Samuel 15, where Saul's commanded by Samuel, the prophet, to go and do these things. And I've seen gymnastics done by Christian apologists to try and get out of this. It doesn't mean what you think it means. They do the same thing in Judges 11 when it talks about Jephthah's daughter, where Jephthah says, God, if you help me win this battle against my enemies, the first person who walks through my threshold at my door, I'm going to sacrifice them to you. It ends up becoming his daughter. And you would think God would go, okay, like he did with Abraham, look, check it out. We're not going to actually do that because that's a human and that's your daughter. We're going to take a cattle or a cow or a ram or something instead. But I just say that to say, in the context of not committing fornication or adultery, you got to imagine this is being given to the Israelites. So I suspect this is within the community of Israel, that this idea is there. And men had multiple wives. Abraham himself, Isaac and Jacob, multiple wives. So if you marry this woman or she's your concubine, I think these are kind of loopholes. But anyway. Oh, yeah. Deborah, what's up, Deborah?
Oh, Deborah. Yeah. Do you know Deborah?
Yeah, I'm actually finishing her book, Crucifying the Bible, right now.
Oh. Okay. I wasn't aware. Okay, nice to have you here, Deborah. Okay. All right. Let's go through these super chats quickly. Frances Conrad said, I actually wanted to make this a 1-hour stream. That's what I said to Derek at the beginning, but this is how I always am. I come together with David Wood and I tell him, hey, you know what? Let's not go over an hour. And then we end up talking for 2.5 hours. And every time after this stream, you're like, wait, didn't we say 1 hour? And he's like, yeah, but
ADHD, baby.
Francis Conrad said, please don't lie about slavery in the Bible, mate. Just saying.
Look,
Okay.
I mean, let me just put a book up on the screen.
Let's keep it short. Okay.
I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to show you a book that you should read. My PhD here. I don't know if they could see that or not. Did the Old Testament endorse slavery? And of course, this is Dr. Joshua Bowen. I've done countless videos of this on the Old Testament. Not going to lie, it was ugly. It is what it is. But we're not sitting here judging that in its context. We're saying, don't use this book as your moral standard, acting like it's all-knowing and all-powerful and for all times, like you talk about Islam, and you're going to push it down into today. Anyway, enough said.
Yeah, TP Bear said, I love these short live streams. Thank you, TP Bear. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sarah said 3 hours later. Yeah, that's how it goes. Mind, Body, Soul Cleanse said, if Jannah exists, so if the Islamic heaven exists, how is it possible to have enough space for all Muslims who die since the beginning of time? For example, if 1 billion Muslims die plus 72 virgins per death, then 72 billion people in Jannah every 100 years. What? So don't think about the logistics of it. Just forget about it. But it's a very strange thing. It's I'm not saying this is a problem. I'm not saying this is a theological problem, but it was actually a question that I had in my mind when I was a Muslim. I thought, wait a minute. So all the Muslims go to heaven since the beginning of everything, and then we will have our companions and this and that. It's like, how big is heaven? How do we travel in heaven? How do we see each other? How do we get anywhere? And then I was like, okay, this is just something I shouldn't be thinking about. I can't imagine it. But it is a weird thing. One thing that I want to correct is the Islamic teaching is not that every Muslim gets 72 virgins. It's that there is a hadith that martyrs will have 72 virgins, but that the average Muslim, I think, or a Muslim will get at least 2 virgins, as far as I remember. That's what the notion is. So don't be too excited about 72. You might have fewer than that. Learn to live with that. Yeah. Well said. What do you think about virgins, Derek?
Oh, man. Oh, goodness. It makes me think of Mormonism in a way, because this is one of the early polygamist teachings. And in fact, Joseph Smith, when I did a series on this, on Joseph Smith and Mormonism, he claimed to be the modern Muhammad. And he actually ran for the United States president. I don't know if most people know this, but he tried to run for president. This guy had hitmen as his close friends. This guy was like a political force to reckon with, kind of like what we see with Muhammad. Islam has its political tendencies. Oh, this is my buddy. Stop scamming, man. Oh, man, that's awesome. Anyway, yeah, it's just so much there with polygamy and multiple women, and like you're gonna have all these chicks, and you know, I don't know. I don't know.
I actually, when I began to take a course on world religions, and we went through different religions, and we arrived at Mormonism, and I started learning about it, and then I went home and began personally studying Mormonism, and read through a bunch of stuff and listened to a bunch of stuff, crunched it into a few days, stuff that you would learn over a few weeks. And to be very honest, I thought, okay, Mormons are nice, very nice people, looks very ordered, very cool and all that. But dude, all the stuff that I have learned about the religion, all the stuff that I have learned about Joseph Smith, it really made me feel disgusted. I thought, this is disgusting. This is terrible. I mean, it feels disgusting to me. It looks like this is like a modern Western white version of Islam. That's what I thought. I don't know.
Wow.
Wait a minute. I need to refresh this screen quickly.
It does that. Okay. When you have ADHD, you gotta refresh it.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Here we are back. All right. I will try to go through the super chats very quickly. I actually have plans. I need to go somewhere.
Yep.
But Mitch Mazzaroli said, "Can you give me the story of how the moon was split? Surely that would leave a mark." Thank you so much for the super chat. Well, it did happen. We have pictures. The moon was split in two. Just kidding. We actually don't. Yeah, some people actually try to bring some photos of certain shapes and certain rifts that exist on the moon, but not just on one spot. That exist everywhere on the moon in different shapes, and also on different moons, and on different satellites and planets, and try to say, look, this is proof that the moon was split in two. But that's complete garbage. I don't know. In all honesty, I would think if this is something magical that Allah makes, and He causes the moon to be split in two, then Allah could also put it together without leaving a mark. If you want to believe in something very absurd, then you could also believe in the absurdity of it coming together without leaving any mark. I want to be very honest about that. But what's very absurd about this is that the moon was split in two in 7th century Arabia at night, and nobody else in the whole world saw this. In the 7th century, we're not talking about 7,000 years ago. We're talking about the 7th century, where we had civilizations, where we had people across the world that were interested in the sky and the objects in the sky. We had moon gods and all that. There would be records of this. It's simply absurd to believe in such a thing. Francis Conrad said that God is all-knowing yet condones slavery is massively defeated by the fact that Christians alone on earth defeated slavery using the New Testament.
Christians on earth use the New Testament, condone slavery in the South. So, both sides, this is something well drawn out. There are scholars you can read on this. The Southern slave owners were reading, "Be good to your masters, slaves, and slaves, or masters, be good to your slaves." I mean, they were using the Bible to condone the very thing that eventually did get abolished, and thankfully it got abolished. But I think it's just because humans have the tendency of becoming better, not because the religion. I think people are good in nature mostly, whereas religions oftentimes create these conflicts, and then it even stirs up that whole us versus them tribal mentality, and that's a big no.
People are making fun of the whole moon splitting notion, saying people were asleep at night. This is actually something that a Muslim apologist said in response to my criticism that nobody saw the moon split, that we have no single evidence. He actually made a video in which he said, the reason we don't have heaps of evidence is that people were asleep at night. That's what he said.
My gosh. It never ends. It will always escape. It was in another dimension. I mean, eventually it's like, this is what happens. And it happens with every single one of these. So anyway.
Yeah. Hakatas Quidita said, if your guest left Christianity because of end times prophecies, did he look at all into Orthodox preterism? So Orthodox preterism, I know now. And I didn't leave just because of that. I also saw motifs of dying and rising God, myth, motifs that are in antiquity. There was a lot that made me go, what is the prior probability that this Jesus is the one and true way? So I looked into that. But as far as Orthodox preterism, I didn't dive into that till after I had left. I became a full preterist while I was still in Christianity. And then I got excommunicated from the Presbyterian PCA church because I became a full preterist, because I was trying to be true to Jesus' words, where he promised that generation in that time. And Paul said, we who remain and are alive at his coming, 1 Thessalonians 4, will be taken, with the Lord. Paul thought it was going to happen in his own lifetime. And I think that later on it changed. So anyway. Yep. Okay, stop bashing Christianity, please. Yep. Greg Kanowitz said in a super chat, thank you so much, MBS is trying to get rid of 90% of all hadiths. Are we talking about the Saudi prince here? It's trying to get rid of 90% of all hadiths. Is that a thing? I don't exactly know anything about that. I haven't been following any of the things that are happening, but that sounds interesting. Abby Duduke,
yeah.
Okay, said, AP, I request you to call Sashwala to your channel. He will take discussion to the next level. YouTube channel is called Dystopia to Reason. I don't know who or that is, but I will see. I will look. Thank you so much. Stop Scamming Man made a super chat. Thank you so much, Stop Scamming Man, as always. And said, apologists try to defend Aisha's age, claiming no one had a problem with such in ancient times. The proto-gospel of James, which can be read in Bart Ehrman's book, Lost Scriptures, paints a very different picture. I have personally acquired that book, the Infancy Gospel. I haven't read it through yet. I'm really interested. I want to look into that sometime because there are some connections made between the proto-evangelical Gospels and Islamic narratives. It is said that Islam borrowed some stories, made-up stories from those apocryphal Gospels, and I really want to look into that. But thank you for the information. I'll check it out.
Stop scamming.
Zathinian made a super chat and said, AP, would you be able to list the things that help you with severe ADHD from a fellow creative sufferer? Thank you so much. Stay strong. Well, I don't know. I wanted to make a whole video about this stuff, but you're asking someone who's dealing with ADHD to tell you all the things that help him with ADHD in the moment. And it's ironic, but I do a lot of fidgeting. I recently got myself some fidget things. I don't have that here, but I actually have this cube that has these buttons around that I use and push with me. That actually really helps me focus on something that I'm doing. I, as said, have these beads here that I use for meditation and for other things. Meditation really helps. Taking a time during the day and simply doing nothing really helps, because we are in a time where you are constantly doing something, constantly looking at a screen, constantly engaging in something. There is many people don't ever do nothing, and that's really bad. You should be taking a break from stimulation and from all that during the day, and that really helps calm down and become more focused on the day. Organizing your thoughts. I personally eventually had to go with taking meditation, so I do take a stimulant for ADHD, which calms me down and which makes me able to focus on the conversation that I'm having. Otherwise, I would be all over the place. So things like these are helpful, I would say. But these are just things that everyone will tell you. One thing is, I will not tell you to go and get to make a list and that stuff. That's the dumbest thing, which I think. When you have ADHD and you look for solutions to manage your life in a proper way, and you go online and experts give you the advice, oh, just make a list, keep an agenda. Dude, it doesn't work. That's the whole problem. That doesn't work. You can't stick with that. But anyway, Rum Runner made a super chat and said, Derek, how did you handle the obvious contradictions in the Bible, like the death of Judas, etc.? That's a big part of why I left the religion.
Before, I used to try and reconcile them. And I mean, now I see a clear issue. So it wasn't the reason I left, but now I see it as obviously two different narratives. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm trying not to be too critical here on a lot of this stuff. They get me on the Bible stuff, but yeah, there's definitely a problem there. There's a book you could read if you're interested. You're interested in checking it out right here. It's just The Resurrection, a Critical Examination of the Easter Story. There you go. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you so much. Another one, Ahmed Khan made a super chat and didn't add anything. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Stop Scamming Man made a super chat and said, another problem with attempts to claim Muhammad is in the Bible is many cite from the last third of Isaiah, and most relevant academics deem Isaiah 40:66, which they refer to as second and third Isaiah, to be later additions. Yeah, this is in reference to what I have been dealing with Muhammad in the Bible. I didn't actually go into the claims recently that concern Isaiah, simply because I thought it is no longer necessary at the point that I was when I was analyzing the Kaaba and other issues. But I think I did deal with Isaiah 42, if I'm not wrong, which many Muslims use as a supposed prophecy about Muhammad, and it is just simply absurd. And one more thing about using Isaiah as a source to say that Muhammad is prophesied in the Bible is, what is Isaiah to Muslims? And why is Isaiah? What is Isaiah to Muslims? Why would they bring up Isaiah?
Well, I saw you engage the guys on my channel, and they were like, "Stop using the Bible. We don't even care about the Bible. The Bible doesn't." And then they're using the Bible to try and prove that the Bible somehow supports it, but then they don't want you to talk about it. And then you're like, it's like, do you do it or do you not?
But on top of that, the problem is the Quran never talks about the Bible. You know, Islam never talks about the Bible, never mentions the Bible. What the Quran talks about is the Torah and the Injil, which is the Evangelion, which is the gospel, or they call it the gospel. They can't even point at what the gospel is. Now, you could say that Torah can maybe used as a general term for the Hebrew Bible. You could argue that, but the Quran also refers to this Torah as the book that was given to Moses the entire time. The Quran never makes a mention of different books, except it mentions one book which is called Zabur, which was revealed to David, with the poor understanding that Islam has about scriptures. And people think that by that the Psalms are referenced, which would also be idiotic, because the Psalms are not thought to have been written by David, and they are also not some divine inspiration that he wrote down word for word. That's not what the Psalms are. So when it comes to Isaiah is not a prophet that is ever mentioned in Islamic sources in scripture, and the book of Isaiah and the books of these prophets are never mentioned in these Islamic sources. So when Muslims want to bring proof that Muhammad is prophesied in the Bible, and then they appear to Isaiah, that's just very weird. You should ask them in response, wait a minute, who is Isaiah to you? What do you believe about Isaiah? And where exactly do you take this knowledge from? Well, they take it from the Bible alone. That's it.
It's really amazing. I'll end on this, that even when, obviously Christians don't see that at all, but no one, no Jew, no Christian, no atheist, secular scholar, no one sees Muhammad in the Bible except Muslims. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good note. And I mean, I think right now I've won some brownie points with some of the Christians on there, and that are in your chat that probably don't like me. The fact is, we can all agree Muhammad is not prophesied, is not pictured in the Bible. At the very least, Christians might say, well, he was the Antichrist or something. I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there that, like, no one sees that prophecy in any positive light of a prophet coming, and that being Muhammad.
Yeah, Muhammad was a guy who was in the 7th century Arabia, who happened to become successful through his exploits, through his campaigns, who happened to spread his religion through the world through a series of events that say nothing further about whether his religion is true or not. And it is absurd to assert that he is actually found in the Bible. If Genghis Khan had established a major religion like Muhammad's, maybe we would be following Genghis Khan's religion today. He was just a brutal conqueror with ambitions to rule the world and spread his own ideas. A few more super chats, and then we can I'll let you go. Stop Scamming Man said, in the Old Testament, no mention of hell, yet when the Quran speaks of Old Testament figures, it drenched in talk of hell. Old Testament writers weren't squeamish about portraying a vengeful God, yet no talk of this. Yeah, I mean, that's you could make a whole deeper analysis of this, but it's just there is a big contrast, isn't there, between how the Quran reads and how the Bible reads. The Bible is, as you say, it has no problem with the whole with the idea of a vengeful God, and yet the Bible is not a book that is just from beginning to end constantly ranting about those who disbelieve and all that. It is a book mostly of telling the history, telling how God leads his people, how he interacts with them, prophets come and make prophecies, and so on. With the Quran, you simply have a book that is much shorter, that is simply full of ramblings and threats of hellfire and torture and punishment on almost every page. It is just so not similar to the scripture that it claims to be a sequel of,
It's anachronistic, to put it lightly. That's simple as that. This concept of hell being pushed back into the Old Testament is also anachronistic.
Yeah. Ahmed Khan said, AP question, are you a Christian or do you follow any religion today? I had assumed you are an agnostic or an atheist. Thank you so much for the super chat. I am what you would technically call an atheist, since I do not believe in the one God. that we are expected to believe in, which is why the division between theism and atheism happens. And I would be technically an atheist, but I don't really call myself an atheist. I don't care. So I am not an agnostic because I don't think God is not something that we cannot know, which is why we cannot, make any certain claim about it and all that. I think calling yourself an agnostic is a little bit of a cop-out. It would be a cop-out in my position, at least. To me, I think I am pretty certain that the one God, does not exist, and that there is no such creator. But I would also say that the whole word God alone is a concept that was introduced by certain religions, and that this is a function of human development, which is now part of the past. So I like calling myself a post-theist. This is something that I want to run with, and I want to hold this position. I'm a post-theist. I'm not an atheist necessarily. Yeah.
Such a negative term too, though. Like, you just don't believe. You don't believe. Like, I believe in something. It's just not God.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And universally speaking, it's a little bit absurd to call yourself an atheist and to use that as a label. It's like if you are in China, it doesn't make any sense to call yourself an atheist. Qatar Hindu made a super chat and said, Allah sent Burak a mule instead of a chariot with a comfortable seat. At least a couch should have been sent by the Almighty God in respect. Thank you for the super chat. This is a reference to Muhammad rode on the back of a flying mule to Jerusalem, and from there he ascended to space. To heaven. Space doesn't exist in Islam, and he rode on the back of a weird mule that he also tied to the wall of a place in Jerusalem so it doesn't fly away. And it's just such a dumb narrative. I don't know what else to add to this. John Coleman made a super chat, thank you so much, and said, the holy books say the earth is only a few thousand years old, and germ theory is just a theory. Checkmate, scientists. Yeah.
Wow. What do I say? Is he saying, it's hard to tell if he's like trolling and joking or if he's like serious and saying, trolling. You know what I mean? It's just kind of hard to tell. Yeah. But sure, whatever you want to say, yeah. I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah. Question to me comes from A1ism, and says, Apostate Prophet, do you really think you are not purposely created, that no creator? Yes.
I mean, did your mom and dad, were they actively in love and appreciated each other, and there you come out of nowhere? Obviously, there's purpose to you being created, and them wanting to carry you. They could have got rid of you as a child and cast you away or whatever. No, I think we have meaning and purpose in and of ourselves, and you don't have to be transcendent in order for that to be the case by a metaphysical being. So that's a whole different discussion now.
Yeah, I was just joking. I'm not trying to. I wouldn't want to just dismiss it with yes or no and then just move on. Well, my view is that that there is no meaning. No inherent meaning to life. So when I say that there is no meaning to life, or when I say there is no objective purpose or creator and all that, what I'm saying is not that that life is meaningless, boo-hoo, sad, and all that. That's not the idea to get. That's the idea that you have if you believe that there should be such a thing as an inherent meaning, an objective meaning to life. And then the opposite of that would be that life is objectively meaningless. That's not how I view it. In my opinion, it is absurd to seek for an objective inherent meaning in life, and that this seeking for such an objective meaning actually contributes to human suffering. And it is an absurd struggle. This is basically roughly the idea of the philosophy known as absurdism. And in my opinion, life is not meaningful or meaningless, because the whole concept of meaning, inherent meaning, is an absurd expectation to have of life. Life is meaningful within its own context. I am alive. I live. I have certain functions. I know where I came from. I know my history. I know human history, human civilization. creation. I live in a world where so many other people lived. I contribute to a world where future generations, including my children, will live. I enjoy things. I am pleased by things. I am hurt by things. Accordingly, I live my life and create meaning within that and live within that context. It's like, to me, the whole concept of objective meaning is like the concept of objective of a creator. Just because I don't believe that there is a creator, that doesn't mean nothing exists or nothing makes sense. And just because I don't believe that there is objective meaning, that doesn't mean that everything is meaningless and I should just go and die.
Yeah, and it just depends on how you define some of this stuff. Obviously, it would be subjective, but I've been looking little at a time here into the morality issue and seeing how evolution and how we as humans, a lot of these philosophers that are big into morality, they'll make the statement of objective morality, but what they mean by that is, is it progressing in a positive way towards humans, that we're not harming one another? And it gets really, really down into some interesting analogies. Like an example is, guy gives this example about morality where there's a person on the railroad tracks, there's one person and then there's five, and you can change the track and the railroad's going to run over and kill one person versus killing six, but you have to physically change the track yourself. So you're actually unintentionally, well, kind of intentionally killing the one to save five or six. Then the other analogy is you bump into a person who's on a bridge, the one person dies, but he stops the track from killing six people, but you're not actually the one pushing the lever. Which one's moral or not? And they did this like status here where most of the people said the first person who intentionally did it, they couldn't do it because they were like, that's immoral. But the other guy who's like accidentally bumps him in order to save the 5 or 6 people, they were like, okay, 20% were like, okay, we could do that. 80% were like, no. You know what I mean? The interesting point is, all I'm trying to get at is it's all perception and it's culturally related. Evolution plays a huge part. And I know people in the chat that are definitely from the religious background would not even accept this. It's a theory, but do they even know what that means in science? Theory doesn't mean that it's not something that's valid or has facts based off of it. This is something that's been tested and really scrutinized. So it's something worth looking into. But when your book tells you you are fearlessly created in the image of your God, of course you're not going to think, well, is it possible I evolved? But there are Christians who do. William Lane Craig, you've got Christian YouTuber, what is his name? Michael Jones with, I can't remember his actual channel. I've interviewed with him before. But there's a lot of Christians who accept evolution. They just call it theistic.
I'm so sick of hearing the whole moral dilemma scenario.
You're probably tired of hearing the whole, yeah.
I learned it. I mean, I heard about this. I went through the same thing in several different courses, and then I went through the same thing again in different fields. I'm like, oh my God, how often will I have to hear this again and again? I'm nothing against the point. It's just it gets so, yeah.
Well, hey, look, Dr. Joshua Bowen is in the chat. Digital Hammurabi.
Really?
He just super chatted.
Oh my God! Hey, Digital Hammurabi is Dr. Joshua Bowen. He's a scholar, a PhD holder in Assyriology, right?
Yeah, he's got Hebrew Bible, ancient Near East, Assyriology. He can read Sumerian. The guy's all over it. He's the guy who brought the book up earlier about slavery in the Old Testament. And then also he's got another book, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament. He's written How to Learn Sumerian. Like, the guy's all over the place. You got to have him on, by the way, I will. To deal with Old Testament context so that you can kind of eradicate the 7th century AD notions that somehow
I talked to him. I definitely want to work together with Dr. Joshua Bowen in terms of analyzing certain claims that Islam makes and that Muslim apologists have presented within the context of that, analyzing Old Testament texts and contexts. And also, I think if you're listening right now, very nice to have you here, by the way. I would love to definitely talk about certain things that I have brought up before in conversations, which is that in Islamic scripture, Islamic scripture has made a lot of borrowings from Mesopotamian, from Middle Eastern, from Sumerian beliefs about the natural world. And you can find a lot of traces of those within the Quran, which basically depict a flat earth. And I don't want to get you in trouble, but but I would like to definitely talk with an expert on these matters. That would be very nice.
I did a video with him on that, on the flat earth. He actually commented again. He says, that's very generous if you look in the chat. And by the way, I'm not a mythicist, in case anyone's asking, Caleb. But I want you to know that I lean that there was a historical Jesus, just so you know. But someone asked.
Yeah, I talked with Dr. Abone on the whole issue with Paran and Becca and Mecca, all those claims that I made a video about yesterday. And we did actually agree to come together and to talk about those as well. So I'm very excited about that.
He's a good guy, and I think your Christians that watch will actually appreciate what he's bringing to the table, because he knows how to stick in a subject, unlike me. I jump and I go to use analogies in Christianity, and he'll be like, okay, in the Hebrew Bible, in its context, in the Old Testament, this is what it's saying, this is what it's about. And that in and of itself will automatically kind of debunk, if you will, any other notions. And that's what I love about Dr. Josh. Christians love his stuff until he's looking at the New Testament. Then they're like, we'll ignore this part and then come back later when he's digging into Old Testament studies or whatever.
Dr. Abdul Majid, who is actually a scholar and a student of knowledge in Islam, said you could have replied saying no discussion, but he did not reply at all. I'm very sorry, Dr. Abdul Majid. I know you were talking about, he sent me an email in which he asked me to have a conversation or a discussion or a debate with him on Islamic matters. I did initially respond, then I forgot to respond with the details. I entirely forgot that. I'm very sorry, Dr. Abdul Majid. I keep forgetting getting back to many people. It's not just about you, but I will definitely respond, and I would love to have a conversation with a scholar about Islam. I will get back to you. That said, okay, let's read the final super chats here, and then let's end this supposed 1 hour live stream.
Dre Day, I don't debate. I have conversations with people, but I don't debate. Just letting them know.
Yeah. Sid Dave said, does AP think Muhammad may have been some kind of a nominal Christian at some point of time? He clearly misunderstood the Trinity. I don't think. I think that he was just influenced by Christians. I think he was influenced by Christians around him, by Christian thoughts. Muhammad was, according to the Islamic narrative, even a trader who in his childhood and in his youth traveled through the region as a trader, and traveled from Mecca or from Medina to through the Middle East to places around modern day Syria and Turkey that had significant Christian populations and people from all kinds of different religious backgrounds. So he probably did learn certain things from people of other religions. And that's where he gets his influence from. He was a person who didn't like his environment, who didn't like his own culture. He was against his local religions, and he created a syncretic religion that consists of pre-Islamic, pagan, polytheistic ideas and practices combined with Abrahamic ideas and practices. That's how I view it.
That's what I see so far from what I've read from scholars.
Thank you. That means I'm right. John D made a super chat and said, AP, what do you think about Dan Gibson's theory about Petra being the holy city of Islam described in the Hadiths? I have said several times before, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a very strong theory. I appreciate the efforts, however, and I see how some parts of the studies may point at such a direction, and why they may be confusing and contradictory within the Islamic narrative altogether. But I think that there are too many sources within Islam that make it hard to believe that Islam or that Muhammad was actually in Petra instead of in some insignificant place like Mecca, where he could have successfully built his empire. I'm sorry, I'm becoming unable to talk. We've been going for too long. But that's what I think. I would like to definitely have a discussion with Dan Gibson and also with Jay Smith about these issues and go into them myself. I have not yet had the.
Is he on YouTube?
Jay Smith is.
Okay, I know Jay Smith.
He often appears on other people's platforms. Dan Gibson is the guy who presented the whole documentary about Petra being Mecca. You should watch that.
Okay. I'll check it out. I mean, obviously, I get many sources. I don't draw a conclusion. One of the reasons I don't debate, just letting our friends know, is because I'm not an authority. And I've done like debates in the past and arguing, and usually it's my thing's bigger than your thing. That's what it's always about. It's not really, to me, I'm more about actually inquiring on the information and not just pulling it out, measuring it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what Derek is trying to say is my ideas are bigger than your ideas. Let's not misunderstand what's being said here.
You're crazy.
Haketas Quiditas made a super chat and said, Daniel 12:2 has hell in Old Testament. Perhaps not what modern day pop Christianity believes, but that's no problem to historically informed Christianity.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem with a Second Temple Judaism late in the day, 2nd century BC, probably 171 BC being written. You know, by then you have Hellenistic ideas, Persian ideas, all of these things. I have no problem. Zoroastrianism had hell, but it definitely develops. By the time you get to Dante, there's levels, and, you know, he's got his enemies in each level. So, yeah.
And as far as I understand it, as far as I've seen it from rabbinic Jewish sources so far, where I have read from or listened to Jewish scholars, to rabbis, it's the whole idea of hell is implied and is more extensively dealt with in Jewish texts that developed later, and they have a different idea of what hell actually is and of what kind of a purpose hell serves. It is, I mean, the function of it is a little bit different from the function it has in Christianity or even in Islam, but it does exist in their beliefs.
Well put.
As far as I know, I don't know if it's well put. Maybe it's
no. I think it's definitely anachronistic. The development of it carries on. It just becomes something more. It takes on its own forms. And you do see that happening throughout Christianity as well. I think our friend who actually super chatted this talks about, notice how he says no problem to historically informed Christianity, right? So I think what he's saying is primitive. You go back, they have no problem with hell, but he even admits later developments of it take on a myth of its own. So, yeah.
Somebody keeps saying in the chat, Apostate Prophet, are you turning into Morpheus? And I don't understand if this is a reference to mythology or if this is a reference to Matrix. If it is a reference to Matrix, then I want to strictly disapprove of that. When I see people make Matrix references, I want to just ban them without question.
Why? You don't like the Matrix?
I always found it very, very tacky, and I couldn't ever sit through watching even,
ADHD. Blame it on the ADHD.
No, I just feel like it's so highly overrated. I know I know many people, even the most intelligent and smart and informed people, will hate me for this, but I just feel like it's very, very overhyped and overrated. I don't know. Digital Hammurabi. Oh yeah, we saw that. Ridvan and Derek together catching it live. Thank you so much.
I've actually been accused already of never being a Christian in your chat. Appreciate the
that's good
compliments of everybody in the chat here. This
yeah,
I'm teasing. I know why they say that, but
yeah. See, when people say red pill, I'm like, please stop. But
I actually liked the Matrix. But anyway, that's enough said.
Yeah, I will never invite you back again.
Don't ban me. Yeah,
I will never have you here again. We're done. No, thank you so much, Derek, for joining me. It was great to talk to you, and thanks everybody for the comments, contributions. There is one more super chat from Erkin Alpgune. I cannot see what it says. Oh, it doesn't say anything. But thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And finally, John D says, AP, what do you think about the controversy of the 31 different versions of Quran brought by Hatun Tash? I don't exactly know what she did, what she brought forth. It is a matter that I'm kind of postponing before I want to in-depth go into that. I'm dealing with a lot of different things right now, but it is definitely a problem to the narrative of Islam. Yeah.
Interesting. John D comes from MythVision as well, by the way. A lot of these people are coming in over. That's cool. Cool to see you, MythVision. Thank you for coming and showing my boys some support. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell.
Thank you. Honest commenter said, AP, I'm a big fan. I just wanted to highlight that your argument about Kaaba not mentioned in other history books is a fallacy from silence. No, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. Silence is not always a fallacy. It is not necessarily always a fallacy. If that was indeed the case, if argument from silence or argument from ignorance, whatever you want to call it, was always bad, was always a fallacy, then you could reduce this to an absurd example and could also confirm that in that absurd example, it would also be a fallacy. For example, I don't know, my mind is very clouded right now. I can't come up with an absurd example, but somebody wants to make an inspection of my home and wants to clear my home of termites, and then finds out that there are no termites, and then leaves and says, okay, I didn't have to do anything because there were obviously no termites in your home. And I would then say, well, that's not true, because just because you didn't see any, that doesn't mean there are none. So you should go back and do your work. And that would be a very dumb thing to do. Terrible example, I know, but if it was 2 hours ago, I'd probably be able to come up with a better example. But point being, silence is not always bad, and it's not always a fallacy. It is very often a proper argument. On top of that, what I am doing with the entire Kaaba argument is not necessarily presenting proof that Islam is absolutely wrong. What I'm doing is to present an argument and raise a question in order to make the point that something which Islam asserts is very likely wrong, and that this contributes to Islam being wrong. And this is a very simple form of abductive reasoning, where you look at the facts that you have at hand, and then you proceed with them. You see, the Quran claims that Abraham built the Bible upon the commands of Allah. The Quran says that Allah told Abraham that people will come from every distant past, and they will worship, and they will do this and that. Based on these ideas, it is also the Islamic claim that Mecca is the mother of cities, that it was highly important, and so on. Based on these ideas, you would then expect that you would find the Kaaba within Abrahamic tradition, within Abrahamic history, within Abrahamic scripture, connected to Abraham. You could find traces of this in the world of people coming to the Kaaba, and you could find that Mecca is indeed historically significant. But when you look at the facts, you see that Mecca is completely insignificant and unknown until around the emergence of Islam. You see that the Kaaba has nothing to do with the Abraham that we have. You see that Christians and Jews have no knowledge of this issue at all. And on top of that, you also find that Islam does mostly approve of the biblical narrative on Abraham, but tries to make an assertion that Abraham did build the Kaaba and that this was central to him. But those two things are not really reconcilable. If the biblical narrative about Abraham is true, then why in the world did he build the Kaaba? Why is none of that mentioned? Why is there no history connected to that? It simply doesn't make sense. Why would Abraham come there, make this global mission given to him by Allah, and then simply go there and live the rest of his life up there far in the north, nothing to do with this land? Looking at all of these facts, it seems that the most likely explanation is that Islam simply makes claims that cannot be backed up, and the most likely explanation is that Islam's claims are false. Otherwise, please come forth and prove the opposite. That is what is being made here. This is a simple form of abductive reasoning that I think can be done in a very simple and easy way.
I want to give another example of this just briefly. Joseph Smith came out of a Christian household from the Burned Over district in New York. When he got older, and of course the cult comes on, he has this story, where he's found these gold plates, and the angel Moroni showed it, and God the Father and Jesus appeared to him, and all these things. He then has this revelation, and he says the Native Americans are actually Israelites, the lost tribes of Israel who came over. And I think it's in Wooden Submarine, something like that. I'm not being funny. This is like really something he believed. And if you know the historical situation, people were really looking all over the world for the lost tribes of Israel. And they started thinking maybe some of these other ethnic groups are the lost tribes. So Joseph Smith, reading the Bible and the cultural context, is now reaching back and comes up with this anachronistic narrative that even the Garden of Eden was somewhere in America. All of this stuff, all they're doing is they're looking at previous narratives and then they're assuming theirs goes way back. It's the same thing it's the old trick. It's happened in all of the religions. They keep going back and it goes way back into antiquity. And somehow they're laying claim to this truth. What's more probable, what AP is saying or what they're saying is actually factually true without any evidence to say it's true? I mean, did you not know that pink elephants rule the universe in the invisible metaphysical realm? Well, you can't prove it's not true. It's true. And I make the assertion with no evidence. It can be falsified out the gate without any, there's no evidence to the claim. So you might as well just have it as something like, you have no reason to believe pink elephants rule the universe. So it's ridiculous to make that as an assumption that somehow this claim is still useful. It's not. If you don't have any archaeological evidence, any textual evidence prior to the 7th century AD where this claim is going on all the way back in antiquity, or it doesn't even have to go all the way back, but at least something before 7th century AD,
I gave an example on Derek's channel before, and you could argue that this is an absurd example, but that exactly is the point. I am trying to reduce it to the absurd in order to make a point, to say that silence, that silence is not necessarily fallacious. I said there, you could come forth and argue that there was once a temple in Germany at the heart of Europe 1,500 years ago or 2,000 years ago, and we know a lot about things that were there in Europe 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago. You could argue that there was once a temple in Germany 2,000 years ago, and that humans from around the world would come to this place in worship because this was the first place built for God, and people invited mankind, and mankind came from all kinds of distant places to this temple in Europe. You could make this assertion. Yeah. And I could go ahead and say, you know what, that's very dumb, that's absurd, that's false. I mean, that's obviously stupid. We know about Europe, and we know that this is not the case. If this was the case, we would have heaps of evidence about this. We would heaps of evidence of people writing about this, telling about this. We would have archaeological evidence about this, but we have nothing. It is absurd to believe in such a thing. In this case, it is rather absurd to assert that this is a fallacy of an argumentation from silence. This is a very valid objection from silence or from ignorance. And just in the case, as is in the case with the Kaaba. In the Kaaba, with the Kaaba example, silence, ignorance, lack of evidence, and so much contradiction in evidence, so much opposite, so much opposing information is enough reason to entirely doubt the narrative of Islam and to come to the conclusion that the Islamic claim is false, or at least most likely false. And that's a problem.
That's why they're trying to get into the valley thing with you. They're trying to go to the Bible. But this very problem we had on our show, when you joined me on my channel, they were saying, like, what are you going to the Bible for? What are you doing? And it's like, dude, I mean, you're making claims. And so what are you going to point to? You're looking at the Quran, the 7th century, 8th century Quran, pointing to back here. Give me something. So some of them are willing to quote the Bible to act like it has some claim, and that's testable. That's something to look for and look at, but it doesn't match what they're saying. And that's why you're going to have a Hebrew scholar come on, Dr. Joshua Bowen, to be able to explain what this valley was, where it was located, what it was meant, all of that to really give everyone what is going on here.
I would love it if people could start doing some extensive archaeological research in Mecca, around Mecca. It would be very amazing if the government of Saudi Arabia allowed archaeologists to go there and make some in-depth searches in Mecca. I think that would give us a lot of answers, which is probably also one of the reasons why it's not really done.
You're asking for a miracle. I was reading that PDF on that topic, and she was going into the archaeology, and she said that they had to stop digging in these regions, but everything they found archaeologically went back to, in this PDF specifically, Christianity and Judaism. Like, these are the temples that are in this area with certain artwork that comes from the Byzantine, Christian time, of course. So nothing was showing. All it's showing is that there's previous movements that may have had influence, like you said.
All right. Okay. That's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for the comments. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I will see you again very soon on a different stream, on a different video. Thank you so much, Derek, for joining me. I really appreciated this conversation, and we'll do again more in the future. Anything else that you want to add?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are MythVision.
No, the wrong place. This is Apostate Prophet.
Oh, snap!
Stay with
Apostate Prophet. Now, I appreciate it, man. And anyone who likes what I said, if you don't like what I said, don't subscribe to my channel. I'm fair warning. I mean this. I'm sincere when I say this. I do not want people triggered. That's not my goal. I understand how valuable faith is to people, and they think I'm dead wrong. I get it. You don't want to come to my channel, then you don't want to check it out. If you like what I said, come subscribe. You know, it's invitation there. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, thank you so much, and have a fantastic day. And as always, we are, no, just kidding. Stay away from Islam.